Hi everyone, it's Helen Horta here, founder of Form Help, and we are on the smarttraveller.gov.au website, and we are doing a Smart Traveller Advice Daily Update for the following islands and countries of the Federated States of Micronesia, Samoa, Ethiopia, Iran, Turkey, Sri Lanka, Peru, and Poland. So we'll get straight into the Federated States of Micronesia. Okay, so as you can see here, it was updated on the 5th of April and it's still current, as it today being the 6th of April. And it says, we now advise you to exercise a high degree of caution in the federal states of Micronesia. Due to COVID-19, FSM has closed its borders until further notice. So this covers all arrivals by air and sea. So follow the social media accounts of the Australian Embassy in the FSM for updates, and then see local context below. So again, the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in the Federated States of Micronesia due to the impacts of COVID-19. And again, the advice levels exercise a high degree of caution. And if you scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read. And that is the latest travel advice update from the Australian government for the Federated States of Micronesia. Next, we'll go to Samoa. Samoa. Okay, so this was updated on the 5th of April and it's still current as at today being the 6th of April. And it reads, Samoa will be at alert level 2 under state of emergency orders from midnight on the 5th of April. So under alert level 2, businesses can operate between 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Monday to Saturday, and Samoa's borders continue to be closed to all travellers from Australia. Now, monthly repatriation flights between Samoa and Australia are due to commence in April, and Australians wishing to leave Samoa can contact the Australian High Commission at apia.admin@dfat.gov.au to receive information on current flight restrictions. Now, if you've had a positive COVID-19 PCR test, you'll only be allowed to travel to Samoa if you meet strict criteria. And the Australian government does advise reconsider your need to travel to Samoa due to the impacts of COVID-19. And again, the advice level, reconsider your need to travel to Samoa. And if you scroll down below, there is more information for you to read. And that is the latest travel updates from the Australian government for Samoa. Next, we'll go to Ethiopia. Ethiopia. Now, this was updated on the 5th of April and it's still current as at today being the 6th of April, and it reads, if you're fully vaccinated against COVID-19 or recently recovered, you're not required to undertake testing for entry into Ethiopia. Now, if you're not vaccinated, you must present a negative PCR test taken within 72 hours of flight departure, or an AGRDT negative test taken up to 24 hours before the flight. So see the travel information below. Now, the security situation in Ethiopia remains uncertain, so we advise that you do not travel to the regional states of Tigray, bordering areas of Amhara and Afar states, Somali region, and most international land borders. Now, our ability to provide consular assistance in do not travel areas across Ethiopia is extremely limited. So the Australian government does advise reconsider your need to travel to Ethiopia due to ongoing civil unrest and armed conflicts in the north of the country and the risk of them spreading to new areas without warning. And then other levels apply in some areas. Now again, the advice levels, reconsider your need to travel to Ethiopia. Do not travel to border areas with Sudan, Eritrea, Kenya, South Sudan, Somalia, or the Gambela and Somali region. Do not travel to the regional states of Tigray and bordering areas of Amhara and Afar states, and exercise a high degree of caution to Addis Ababa and central Ethiopia. And if you scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read, and that is the latest travel updates from the Australian government for Ethiopia. Next, we'll go to Iran. Iran. Now, this was updated on the 5th of April and it's still current as at today being the 6th of April, and it reads, Non-Iranian passengers over the age of 12 arriving in Iran must provide a valid COVID-19 vaccination certificate. Iranian passengers without a valid COVID-19 certificate may present a negative COVID-19 PCR test conducted within 72 hours before departure from the first embarkation point. So check COVID-19 entry requirements with your airline before departure, and all passengers also need to complete self-declaration forms on inbound flights, and failure to wear a face covering in public could result in a fine, and medical evacuation may be difficult. So if you're in Iran, we continue to recommend you leave while commercial options are available, and airlines may cancel or reduce their operations to and from Iran at short notice. And the Australian government does continue to advise do not travel to Iran due to the health risks from the COVID-19 pandemic and the significant disruptions to global travel, and the security situation remains volatile, and there's a high risk you could be arbitrarily detained or arrested. And again, advice levels: do not travel to Iran. And if you do scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read. And that is the latest travel updates from the Australian government for Iran. Next, we'll go to Turkey. Now, this was updated on the 5th of April, and it's still current as at today, being the 6th of April. And it reads, if you're planning to travel to Turkey to commemorate Anzac Day, understand the risks and plan ahead. We continue to advise you should exercise a high degree of caution in Turkey overall, so be alert to possible threats, especially in public places or mass gatherings. Stay safe and be vigilant in large crowds. And see the safety section below for more information. And you should read our Travel Overseas for Anzac Day page for further information on attending the event. Now, the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in Turkey overall due to the high threat of terrorist attack, and higher levels do apply in some other areas. And again, the advice levels: exercise a high degree of caution in Turkey. Do not travel to within 10 kilometers of the border with Syria or to Diyarbakir city, and then reconsider your need to travel to the provinces of Batman, Bengal, Bitlis, Diyarbakir province, Gaziantep, Hakkari, Hatay, Kilis, Mardin, Mus, Sanliurfa, Sirte, Sunak, Tunsali, and Van. And if you read further down below, there is more information there for you. And that is the latest travel updates from the Australian government for Turkey. Next, we'll go to Sri Lanka. Okay, so this was updated on the 4th of April, and it's still current as at today, being the 6th of April. And it reads, a public emergency has been declared in Sri Lanka and curfews may be imposed with short notice. Carry relevant travel and ID documents for any checkpoints. Avoid demonstrations and events that draw large groups. Follow the advice of local authorities and monitor the media for updates, and you may experience disruption to fuel supply and planned lengthy power outages, and import delays may impact your ability to access some medicines and food items. And the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution to Sri Lanka due to the impacts of COVID-19. And again, the advice levels: exercise a high degree of caution to Sri Lanka. And if you scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read. And that is the latest travel updates from the Australian government for Sri Lanka. Next, we'll go to Peru. So this was updated on the 5th of April, and it's still current as at today, being the 6th of April. And it reads, the government of Peru has announced a curfew in Lima and Callao until 23:59 hours on Tuesday the 5th of April, following protests and unrest. A state of emergency has also been declared, so avoid demonstrations and events that draw large groups. And the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in Peru overall due to the high risk of violent crime, and then higher levels do apply in some other areas. And again, the advice levels: exercise a high degree of caution in Peru, and reconsider your need to travel within 20 k's of the border with Colombia, areas bordering Ecuador in the regions of Loreto and Amazonas and Cajamarca. Oh, and if you scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read. And that is the latest travel updates from the Australian government for Peru. Next, we'll go to Poland. Poland. Okay, so this was updated today, being the 6th of April, and it reads, the Russian invasion of Ukraine is ongoing. Heavy fighting, including bombardments, explosions, and missile launches, is ongoing throughout Ukraine, including in major cities. Infrastructure and military facilities have been struck by rockets. There have been many civilian casualties. Foreigners have been killed and may be targeted, including in areas not directly affected by fighting. Now, do not cross into Ukraine from Poland. Follow the instructions of local authorities at all times. If you have arrived in Poland from Ukraine and are in need of assistance, contact the Consular Emergency Centre on 1300 555 135 in Australia or +61 2 6261 3305 if outside Australia. There are no COVID-19 entry restrictions at the Polish border. So if you're travelling by land, you must have a valid Australian passport. All crossings at the Ukrainian border are open to pedestrian traffic. Accommodation near the border with Ukraine is extremely limited. Accommodation availability increases further from the border area. Plan for delays at land border crossings. Expect some congestion on routes, at checkpoints and lengthy queues. Make sure you have an adequate supply of food, water, medication and fuel, and use your judgment to decide the best time and safest means of exit, and read the Ukraine travel advice. A state of emergency remains in place in areas within approximately 3 k's of the Belarusian border, including parts of Podlaski and Lubelski voivodeships. Reconsider your need to be in these areas due to increased restrictions on movement, assembly and activities, and follow the instructions of Polish authorities and carry ID with you at all times if you're in these areas. Now, the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in Poland due to the impacts of COVID-19, and then higher levels do apply in some other areas. And again, the advice levels: exercise a high degree of caution in Poland and reconsider your need to travel to areas within 3 k's of the border with Belarus. And if you scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read. And that concludes the latest travel updates from the Australian government. And that concludes the Smart Traveller Advice Daily Update for these countries from the Australian government. Thanks for listening. Keep safe wherever you are in the world. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's Helen Hortai, founder of Form Hub, signing out. Bye.